Hello and welcome to the Online Fundraising Academy. We're so excited that you have been able to join us this year, and we hope that you're as excited as we are to help you with your year-end campaigns. If you're clicking on this video, it means that you found the worksheet and the weekly emails, which is great. So please just work through that page and make sure that you've completed the task before the workshops, just so that everyone's on the same page. And also please make sure that you've read the commitments and the norm setting before you come in, so everyone's got the same expectations. So just some introductions for this session. I'm Jazz and I'm Learning and Engagement Officer. And we'll also be hearing later from Corby, who will be talking from the Jago Foundation. And they are a very prominent partner on our platform, and they have lots to say about what they've learned from their previous campaign experience. So the agenda of this session one, is going to be about goal setting. So very quickly, I know that we've all been through smart fundraising training before, but we're going to cover SMART goals. We're also going to really consider analyzing your capacity as an organization. And then we're also going to start thinking about the proven power of project appeals. And these three categories will link into the way that we've designed the tasks, so that you can take different parts of this seminar and the talk and apply them to different areas of the task, ready to take into the workshops. So 90% of you will, if you've been with GlobalGiving for a while, will have heard of SMART goals, but we're going to go over them because it's really important for everyone, yourself and your team, to be on the same page when it comes to SMART goals. So SMART is an acronym, and what it stands for is specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound. Really important to make sure that when you're setting a goal, that it meets SMART, that it is specific, that it's actionable, etc., but also that it's able to communicate something. And so for this, we recommend that you set two goals, because when one goal is set, it may actually be too far one way on a spectrum. So if a goal feels unachievable, then you might feel inadequate, although you're being set up to fail. And at the same time, when a goal seems easy, you may not work as hard to achieve it, or won't feel like you've reached the same level of satisfaction. So what might work for you and your team is actually just setting an external goal, which is conservative, and so you feel like you're able to present to the world this specific goal, and then also a more ambitious internal goal as well. So here's an example of what a SMART goal might look like. You have a SMART goal to engage your team to raise $10,000 from 80 donors during year-end fundraising. What we have to decide before we started fundraising is, what actions will you undertake to reach this goal? When will you take those actions? And who in your team will do them? So this really just comes down to, it kind of shows you how important setting a goal is, but also how important discussing that goal and the components of that goal is with your team and with anyone that is involved with fundraising and marketing and communications. And Corby is going to talk about that in his section a bit later. So whilst we're thinking about SMART goals, as I just said, one of the key things we have to do is prepare our internal team. Sometimes, and I know that a lot of us here at GlobalGiving are sole fundraisers. We are the only people responsible for fundraising in our organization. And what I want to make sure is that you understand that other people in your team can take on some of that responsibility with you. And in fact, your campaign will work better if everyone is notified and properly communicated with. Teamwork leads to success. Often the burden of fundraising falls to one or two people, and we need to be open with dialogue with our team very early to ensure they approach fundraising with the same attitude that you do. And I know that you approach it with an incredible attitude because you're already here learning and training about how to do year-end fundraising right. So here's some things when we're thinking about planning with our team. Think about the different factors that might help individual team members be more aligned to your fundraising goals. Who needs constant emailing and who needs a call? You know your team best, and it's your responsibility to sit down with your team and work out how you're going to work with each team member on fundraising. In any organization, we need to socialize different jobs that need to be done in order for the team to get behind them. And fundraising is no different. So buy-in and centering your team in the planning of these SMART goals, which hopefully you'll be able to do as part of this training, is something that needs to happen. And so you need to center your team in the planning of your SMART goals. Do they understand the intricacies of your project messaging? When was the last time they looked at the GlobalGiving project page? Do they have feedback? All of these different things are really important in making sure that fundraising is something that goes beyond you as a person. Not everyone has to take the position of I will be solely responsible for fundraising to be involved in a fundraising campaign. In fact, the more people are involved, the more likely you are to be able to do a more comprehensive network mapping, for example. And it goes without saying that you should plan a kickoff meeting. And for year-end fundraising, that kickoff meeting should be pretty soon. And your team should be as excited about the launch of a campaign as you are, and they should be there to witness that and to be there with you for that campaign. So something that we need to think about as well is our fundraising advocates and the last time that we talked to them. And again, Corby is going to talk about that in a later section. So just really quickly, if you haven't heard of fundraising advocates before, fundraising advocates build bridges to your secondary and tertiary networks. They are those people that are super excited about what it is you're doing, and you should consider them a specific part of your fundraising team. You can assign responsibility in micro goals to your fundraising advocates and make sure that that your total goal is actually segmented across these different people that are really passionate about what it is that you do. So again, really quickly, what are the characteristics of a great fundraising advocate? They have a large network of friends and family. They are passionate and positive about your work. They know your story and can act as your brand ambassador. You are comfortable asking them for help, and they have the time and willingness to work. Fundraising advocates are what are going to help your campaign succeed. The more of you that are working towards these specific goals, the better. If you didn't know already, and some people don't, you have the ability to add fundraisers to your page. So all you have to do is go to your project page and you'll find there's a button that says start a fundraiser. And that's really helpful because it means that you can ask people who are passionate about your cause to take responsibility for a smaller goal. Their fundraiser page could just say, I want to raise $600 or 600 euros. And that suddenly becomes a segment of that money, that cash, that goal that you set that is actually out in the universe with someone who is as passionate about what it is that you do as you are. So this is just an example of what one looks like. You can see that Chris has been able to personalize his fundraiser page, which, as we know by now, is actually one of the most secure ways to gain funding, is to personalize the message of what it is that you are trying to achieve. So just to recap, when we're setting goals, we have to set an ambitious but possible goal. I would recommend setting an external and an internal one, the external one being more conservative, your internal team knowing about the more ambitious one, just so that you are able to work towards goals in a way that works for you. You should always be working backwards to lay out how you achieve this goal. And if you look in the task book, you'll see that we've put up how to think about your capacities so that you understand where it is that you're going to have to work. Make sure you identify your fundraising team early to divide roles and responsibilities. And I would recommend that you book a kickoff meeting very, very soon for year-end fundraising. Run your team through a network mapping exercise. This goes without saying, but this is all part of planning for that goal. And make sure that you are having fun and you're being creative and you are building energy. Really quickly, we need to ensure that you are able to talk about your projects and your organization confidently. So I just wanted to bring your attention to the fact that throughout this pandemic and throughout these last 18 months, we have all been racing to find core costs. And so really quickly, I just wanted to bring your attention to the idea that you can actually introduce your core costs to these project your project pages in case you weren't aware that you could do that. So I would love it if you could talk to your donors like they're investing in startups. So it's really talking about like a 3-year growth plan to take on bigger projects. So for example, how we can phrase that is spending 50 cents to buy a bag of fresh, nutritious produce that will last a full week versus 20 cents to buy a bag of less nutritious vegetables might be a really good idea. I want you to feel like when you're going into year-end fundraising, you're able to talk about your staff and your investments as confidently as you do about your mission in your projects. Being able to invest in your staff and resources means that your program will be more cost effective and better planned over time. Another way that you can think about putting overhead for this year-end fundraising is to actually put it into your GlobalGiving project pages. So on this by African Angels, there is actually, if you look down at these bottom options, you'll see that there is insures our school bus and the children we transport for 3 months in case of an accident or damage. Insurance is expensive, but our kids are worth it. You're asking in your project someone to pay for bus insurance, and that may not have been something you've thought about before. It's really about making sure that for this year-end fundraising, you feel well equipped to fundraise for all aspects of your organization's funding, not just the bits that are ring-fenced for mission and project. When we're thinking about our campaigns, we need to think about how to promote the phases of the project to discuss impact with donors in an approachable way. So the way I like to think about this is when we're talking about a project, especially one that's been going on a long time, for example, school scholarships, we can frame a project funding a school as getting to the students to graduation. Frame rebuilding the Amazon as helping with the next 100 football fields and buying those back. Celebrate when that happens. If you're struggling at the moment to think about how to communicate your goals and your campaign to your donors that you've been working with for a while, I want you to feel empowered to start framing it in a slightly different way. And finally, I really want to highlight the power and language of appeals on GlobalGiving. We have the ability to send out project appeals on GlobalGiving, and what this does is it will send an appeal on your behalf to everyone who's donated to your project. And some people don't know about this. And it's really important not only that you use this tool and that you plan to use it, because we have to approve them at GlobalGiving before your campaign starts. So you can't just submit them on the day of the campaign. But you can also segment by them. So you should be talking to your donors who have donated a small amount to you very differently and with slightly different language than those who have given over $100 or, for example, are investing recurring donors. So what that could look like is this, right? We need to understand how many people have given under $100 and how many people have given over. And then in your task book, you're actually going to start writing language on how to think about the language of your project so that you can appeal to these different groups of users and donors to your platform and your project. The other tool that we have is thank you notes. You should all be very familiar with them. Again, donor segmentation is available, so more than $100, less than $100, and recurring. You should all be familiar with this, but if you don't know about it, please do check out your dashboard and get familiar with how the process works. Thanking your donors is the #1 thing we can do to increase engagement. So please do go ahead and check out that tool. Another thing you can actually do in the meantime, in terms of thinking about tools and resources to help with your project and your organization, is to think about how you can show up a bit more digitally. And Corby is going to talk a bit more about that as well. So with your advocates that we were talking about earlier, one thing they can really help you with is asking them to give you a Google or Facebook rating, asking them to like your posts on social media, and asking them to follow you on social media platforms. To the day and age that we live in, it's really important to have a digital presence, and those numbers matter. So if people aren't able to donate, or if people aren't comfortable becoming your advocates in a financial way and asking for money, this is something you can do. You can have drives to try and get the likes up on your Facebook page. So I just wanted to draw your attention to something that you could be doing there for year-end fundraising. Thank you for listening to this part. We're going to go over to myself and Corby, and we're going to listen to how he has taken on the vast years that he's got behind campaigning, both with GlobalGiving and without, and the lessons that he's learned along the way. Thank you for joining me, Corby. I would love it if you could introduce yourself and your organization, and then we can start talking about your experience in analyzing your previous campaigns. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jess. So my name is Corby Raksand. I am the founder of Jago Foundation. We are based in Bangladesh, and we mainly work with providing quality education to underprivileged children and empowering young people through volunteerism. And I think we're with GlobalGiving for a long, long time. We're a happy partner of GlobalGiving.
Yeah, the Jago Foundation is a very long partner, and we've worked a lot together. Having been with us for such a long time, you have worked on many iterations of many of our campaigns, including our year-end campaigns. So I was wondering if you could speak a bit to how you have previously analyzed your fundraising experience in our previous year-end campaigns.
So you want me to focus on what we did before we started the campaigns?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, I think the most important thing on campaigns is to understand what the campaign is about So a lot of time we miscalculate the information. So when it's getting double or stuff like that, and you need to explain it with your team so they also know what to communicate. Because Global Giving is a platform where they're promoting, that is fine, but we also need to promote it a lot to outside Global Giving so you get new people. So especially with our team, I'll say that we have teams that gets divided. So some works on the creative of the story, some works on the digital part. A lot of boosting is required there, targeting people. So, and also at the same time, we do create some ambassadors who actually promote these things. So sometimes it's within our volunteers, and sometimes it's like some influential people. If they share, a lot more fundraising can happen. So these are very basic things that we usually discuss, and we actually create a calendar uh, where we know this is the day we're posting. Sometimes, see, we're in Bangladesh, and people from Bangladesh cannot donate to Global Giving. So we have to understand which country we are targeting. So giving that post according to that country's time, which you're targeting. So we can give a time post in the morning, maybe that's midnight in the US, then it probably will lose. So these are things that we discuss, we plan, we create the creatives and the captions before, and then there's like a whole 7 to 10 days marketing plan that works. And like one or two posts, if I give you example, maybe a few days ago we will say that on this day if you donate money your money can get double, things like that. And then we start giving posts like 2 more days to go, 3 more days to go, 1 more day to go. So that excites people, but we don't give the link, because sometimes if you give that link before, people will go and donate because no one reads all the messages. So you only share the link on the main post the day your money is actually increasing in the campaigns. Some of the strategies that we use.
Thank you for that. Could you maybe talk about a strategy that you imposed on one of your campaigns and it didn't necessarily work out as intended, or there was a strategy that you were experimenting with in a previous campaign and it went really well?
With not working, I will say that sometimes it doesn't work because of targeting wrong people. So we do a lot of boosting to let people know that this is happening. And sometimes if you're not targeting the right people, so for example, if you're targeting people who are below 18 years old, you don't remove them from your campaign. There's a chance that you will spend up money targeting people, but they probably won't donate. Including areas are important. So sometimes we do mistakes because not everyone is working at the same time. We have new people, maybe we forgot to share with them. So we're just spending money on letting people know, because now one thing is very important, that in social media, if you're letting people know, one is organic, but when you're spending money on media buying, you have to be carefully selecting the audience that you're telling the story. So that sometimes doesn't work. So we have to be very careful. But I'll say some of the ways that we actually use, and one of the recent one that we started using, which we actually missed out previously, was the project appeal. So one day I was like, what else can I learn from Global Giving? How we can um, take more advantage of all the tools that they share with us. And that's when we found out about project appeal. The first time we did was a mistake, because we didn't realize that you have to send the project appeal a bit earlier than the project. So we thought that it's the day and we will send it and it will go away. But then we realized that project appeal is not something that you can just send and it will go away, because it sends email to every single person that have donated to your campaigns in your projects. Global Giving actually checks the appeal, make sure that every information is correct, and then they send it out. So whoever is trying to apply with project appeal has to do it few days earlier than the actual campaign. And because you see, because it goes to everyone, someone who has donated 2 years ago also gets that message, and they feel like, okay, maybe it's been a year, I can donate now to that cause again. So this is a very important technique to use. Try to use a very catchy caption. That is important, because a lot of time people doesn't, if it's like, oh, just an appeal from Jago Foundation or help, try to make it in a way where there's a news, where there's a message, and people get excited to know that update that I've donated in this organization $50 1 year ago. I knew they were teaching only 100 kids. Now they have something, a big number of kids. Something that will make people feel like I want to know more, but not lying. Definitely correct information. Um, Other than that, as I said, we do a lot of boosting in social media, particularly people in Bangladesh, people we target. Uh, One is targeting the diaspora, where they are. So like Bangladesh people in the US, Bangladesh people in the UK, it helps you target those people. They feel like even if they're not in the country, they want to be a part of the country's development. So that's one of the techniques that we use in social media to target those people. Um, we use traffic ads, we use messenger ads, we use engagement ads. These are like different types of ads that we use. Uh, we also use a lot of Google ads. Google ads. So for the non-profit, it's actually information that I can share. If you're by any chance registered in the US, UK, and some other countries, you need to check with Google. You can actually apply for this grant, and you get a grant from Google that allows you to do search ads. And that's exactly where we use our search ads for. So we use a lot of these keywords like donate, or whatever cause that we have. For us is like sponsor a child, or donate for education, donate a school bag. And then when they click, they go to our project appeal page in GlobalGiving. So that way, a lot of our traffic actually goes, we can gather a lot of traffic from there. And we show the ad to the people who are actually doing the search related to those words. So there's a high chance that if they end up going to that page, they will donate. And these are people that we don't know, because one thing we use is people outside GlobalGiving. We also have our own email list. So maybe in the newsletter we share that this is happening. People can go and visit GlobalGiving without campaigns. Sometimes like, oh, this is where we are fundraising. That's the technique. But how to reach people outside? People who are interested to give is your GlobalGiving, is your Google Ads, and in general also using words that helps to do SEO. So even when you're writing your reports, every 3 quarterly reports that you're writing, try to use those words so that Google can find those words when people are writing, people are looking for you in Google, because now it's very important to use the SEO. So these are some of the techniques that we use.
That's really, really helpful. Thank you, Corby. I want to move us on to thinking about this year with year-end fundraising, 2021, and thinking about how you are setting a goal with your team, and how you are socializing that around getting everyone prepared to meet that goal with you.
Right. So if it's easier if you actually divide your goals also. So for example, the goal is $100,000 to raise. But how do you do that? So from social media, our target is, okay, we will raise $50,000. So that if you can break your goal into that, it's easier to set a practical goal. Like, okay, then I realized 100,000 is like a lot. Okay, let's target 10,000. That's not practical. With 10,000, maybe 5,000 to 6,000 will be through social media. Then another 2,000 will be through people that we are emailing. We're letting them know that you can donate and you can increase your money. And maybe another 3,000 will be on, we have some volunteers who are living in different countries. They're influencers. There are sometimes celebrities, so requesting them to share those news on that day. So I think that's how we usually end up doing it, so that not all, like maybe one can fail, but not all of them will fail. So there's always something coming in. The effort that you're putting up, it is some fundraising that's happening. That's one thing. But I think we also have previously used creating Facebook events, creating an event page for that particular fundraising. If it's like more than a day fundraiser, then that's something that we have tried before. Because if you're inviting people, there's one place people are coming and getting the information. So you keep on giving countdowns. Few more hours left. If you want to donate now, it's the year ending. And also creating a story around your work. When you're making the appeal, just don't say, come to Global Giving and give money, but I'm sure there's a cause that you're working with. So the creative also needs to be strong. But when you're actually um, fundraising in Facebook, you have to be very careful with the words, because Facebook doesn't allow all words to be boosted. So sometimes if you're saying, oh, it's a tax deductible donation, Facebook will not allow you to boost. So they block that boost. So you have to be very careful choosing those words. So that's the thing that we are planning. So we're breaking down the goals, and then we're talking to a lot of people so that on that day people share. Organic is always the best. Boosting is, I don't know who am I targeting. Maybe that person is not interested, but sharing the story is important. So we have a long list of donors that like sponsors our children. So we wait for that day. Okay, December 25th, December 20th, we'll send the email to them that whatever extra money that you want to give this year, keep it on that day so we can increase our, you can double your donation, you can increase your donation. So that's some of the strategies that we'll be using.
And have you found there's, when you're preparing these advocates, that there is maybe one that it took longer to prepare, but it was ultimately successful? So there's always going to be people that they're just ready to say yes and to do the job straight away. Was there anyone that it was harder to prepare to get to that point before?
Um, yes, we still face it. Not everyone will be your advocate. So they want to know if the cause is right. They want to know how they're also getting promoted through that cause. They want to, not everyone will do it just for the cause. Sometimes people will do it, okay, will you promote me that I am working with you? So sometimes you have to convince people in different ways. It takes time, but you just need to know what makes them happy. Um, there were situations when people probably like, I don't know you guys that well. Okay, why don't you actually have a conversation with one of our students? We'll connect you. And then they're like, this is brilliant. So showing the beneficiary sometimes is also interesting. We still did not do this, but this is something that we might, because it's just a discussion that going live from social media and talking about, okay, because live creates more notifications. So if you go live from your social media page, or maybe a celebrity goes live and say, so this is my target, this is what I want to raise, will you help me? So that's another strategy we still didn't use, but maybe if we have a very strong celebrity agreeing to go for on live, maybe we will do it.
And going back to your ambitious goals and how you're breaking that down, how did you arrive at that conclusion based on previous years' experience? It's not like you raised 5,000 one year and then the next year decided to go for 100,000.
No, I think for first few years we also had to struggle, because how global giving is also interacting now, definitely that increased a lot than previous years when we started. So with time we learned, because initially our like, okay, we will go for 5,000, and we didn't have a strategy. We didn't know where to focus on. So we're like, okay, just put whatever budget we have in social media. And then it's like, oh, this year maybe we didn't do good, the whole thing. So it's wiser. With time we learn, and it's always good to have different multiple source of funding for that fundraiser. Also, another thing that we have started using recently is the fundraiser page. So on your project, there are people who are actually raising fund for you. And there were very interesting people saying, we are getting married, it's pandemic, no one can come, but if you really want to support us, donate for this cause. And that page is completely looks like their page, not just the Jago page. So those are also things that we have found out was very interesting.
Yeah, the fundraiser tool is definitely one that's really, really important to utilize within the GlobalGiving interface. So just going back to you setting a goal and realizing that it would be better if you had a strategy. Apart from breaking things down by income stream, for example, 2,000 from social media, 2,000 from influencers and fundraising advocates. What else did you learn in terms of putting together a strategy to help make that goal more concrete?
I think the timeline that I already mentioned, that if you have, that the fundraiser is on this day. So if you back calculate and actually have a very strong timeline when things are happening is very important, because if you lose that, I think you also lose a chunk of money. So maybe first 2 days before you give the last announcement, but maybe 10 days ago you give the first announcement. When are you giving announcement on which platform? And the timing is very important. So those are also things that I think is important. And also creating a team is important. You cannot be the only person. So it's an organization who's raising fund. So if there's like more than one people, I think there's always good. There's a discussion. So creating a team that owns the campaign, asking. So we have 400 employees. We ask our employees to share it, and they happily share it. And they're like, okay, this is really fun. We were able to raise this much of money. So giving that ownership to the employees and the volunteers are very important. So we communicate this a few days ago, not on the day that, please, can you share this? No, we actually uh, do, like, because we are also in Facebook's workplace. So we go live for 5 minutes and just request the employees, this is what we're doing. Would you like to share? And most of the time what we see is people do support.
Is there anything else you would like to say to our nonprofit partners before we sign off in terms of preparing for year-end fundraising?
Not really. I'll just say that we did not make it. We did not raise money for the first year. It was hard, but we kept trying. And not every day you will raise money. And not every year is good for us. So don't lose hope. Keep trying and use different strategies. Uh, Sometimes we have multiple projects. So because if you just make one project just for the whole organizations, people get confused. So different people have different aims. They look with those words. So if you can also break down your focus areas and make multiple projects, but you also have to make sure that you put the reports on time. Making multiple projects means more writing. Yeah. So, but definitely these are the things that you can focus on, and get your ambassadors, talk about it, use hashtag, use Instagram. And nowadays we see a lot of people coming from Instagram using hashtags. So that's something that I forgot to say.
No, that I really appreciate that. And I think it's so crucial to remember that not every year is going to be as successful as others, but I would encourage nonprofits to go check out the Jago Foundation and see the amazing work you're doing and how successful your fundraising projects are now, and just that it took time and consistency to get to that point. And so patience and commitment is a virtue.
Thanks.
But yeah, thank you very much, Corby.